Have you ever had a moment where silence spoke louder than words? Where a simple conversation revealed truths you didn't know were waiting? Sometimes, the most ordinary nights can uncover the deepest emotions shaping hearts in ways we never expect. The late afternoon sunlight spilled through the thin curtains of Claire Reynolds' living room, painting the walls with soft gold and amber hues. The quiet hum of the city outside was distant, almost like a muted lullaby, while inside, the room felt suspended in a gentle, timeless calm. Claire sat in her favorite armchair, a steaming cup of tea cradled in her hands, her gaze tracing the faint shadows that danced along the wooden floorboards. It was one of those rare, quiet moments that allowed her thoughts to wander freely, unbound by the endless to-do lists of daily life. Yet even in this calm, there was an undercurrent of restlessness, a soft ache she could never quite name. Claire had grown used to the solitude, the gentle rhythm of her quiet home. Still, sometimes, in these fleeting pauses, she felt the weight of unspoken dreams and the subtle pangs of longing. Claire had a life many would call full. Friends who cared, a steady job she liked, and a home that was warm and welcoming. Yet, amid all this, there lingered a quiet space. A corner of her heart reserved for something she hadn't yet found, or perhaps had once lost. It wasn't loneliness in the harsh sense, it was gentler, like a soft echo of something waiting to be awakened. She often wondered if anyone could see the small, hidden pieces of herself she kept tucked away. Behind polite smiles and casual conversations, her thoughts were interrupted by the familiar chime of her phone. It was a message from David Harper, her longtime friend. Claire, would it be all right if Ethan stayed over tonight? He could use a change of scene. Nothing too long, just a night. Claire paused, her fingers hovering over the screen. Ethan, David's son, was polite, introspective, and quietly thoughtful, much like Claire herself. The boy had grown so fast in the past few years, and there was something in his shy, hesitant demeanor that reminded her of the quieter, more tentative parts of her own youth. She smiled softly, replying, of course. He's welcome. As she set her phone down, a strange mix of anticipation and curiosity fluttered through her chest. It was just a sleepover, she told herself. Nothing more than that. Yet her mind raced with possibilities, small, tender interactions that might arise from sharing a quiet evening together. She shook her head gently, amused at her own thoughts. Even a simple night could hold moments of unexpected significance. The room seemed to breathe with her as she prepared for Ethan's arrival. She straightened the cushions on the couch and tucked a soft throw blanket over the armrest. Every detail mattered in a home that was as much a reflection of her inner world as it was a space to welcome others. Claire wanted the evening to feel calm, safe, and comforting, like a gentle pause from the outside world. When the doorbell finally rang, she took a deep breath, smoothing her hands over her skirt before opening the door. There he was, Ethan, carrying his backpack with one hand, the other gripping the strap nervously. His eyes, a shade of green that caught the late sunlight, held a mixture of curiosity and uncertainty, as though he were stepping into an entirely new world, yet hoping it would be familiar. Double quotes, "Hi, Ethan," Claire said warmly. "Come in. Make yourself comfortable." He nodded, his shoulders relaxing slightly as he stepped into the soft glow of her living room. There was a quiet gravity to the way he observed the space, taking in the small details, the framed photographs on the walls, the books neatly arranged on the shelves, the faint scent of lavender lingering in the air. It was as if he were quietly measuring the room, gauging its warmth and safety. Claire couldn't help but notice the subtle tension in his expression, the hesitance that masked a deeper curiosity. She sensed that beneath his polite, composed exterior was a young person trying to navigate a complicated world, a boy who, in his own gentle way, longed for understanding and connection. "Would you like some tea or cocoa?" she asked softly, hoping to ease the small tension she sensed. "Cocoa," he said with a quiet smile. Claire prepared it carefully, letting the rich aroma fill the kitchen. When she handed it to him, their fingers brushed for a brief moment, a fleeting contact, light as a whisper, yet charged with the unspoken awareness of shared presence. as they settled onto the couch. The first few moments were filled with comfortable silence. Claire sipped her own tea, watching as Ethan took tentative sips of his cocoa. Outside, the light shifted, fading gently into the soft hues of twilight. And the city's distant hum became a soothing backdrop. And in that quiet, suspended space, something subtle began to stir. A connection, soft and undefined, like the first hint of a melody that promises a song yet to be written. It was a delicate moment of recognition to hearts acknowledging each other's presence. A quiet anticipation of the night ahead. For Claire, it was a reminder of the simple, unspoken beauty of human connection, the gentle exchange of smiles, the warmth of shared silence. The unhurried unfolding of an ordinary evening that held the possibility of extraordinary emotion. And though the night had only just begun, the smallest spark of something remarkable glimmered in the corners of that quiet room. The soft tick of the clock filled the quiet living room as the rain. Outside began a gentle patter against the windows. Claire Reynolds sat across from Ethan, their mugs of cocoa warming their hands. And yet her thoughts drifted elsewhere, back to a time when life had felt both tender and fragile. Memories, she realized, often came uninvited, sneaking into the present like faint whispers of old songs years ago. Claire had met someone who had quietly shifted the rhythm of her heart. Michael Bennett, a kind, thoughtful man she had known through work and mutual friends, had left a gentle mark that lingered long after their paths diverged. Their connection had begun in small, unremarkable moments. A shared laugh over a spilled cup of coffee. An unexpected conversation about favorite books. The way his eyes crinkled when he smiled. Each gesture had been simple, almost ordinary, yet somehow extraordinary in the way it resonated deep within her. It was in those quiet interactions that she first discovered the strange, thrilling tension of unspoken understanding. Michael had a way of noticing things others overlooked. The way she tucked her hair behind her ear when she was nervous. The books she always carried but never spoke about. The faint blush that came when she laughed too hard. To him, she was never just Claire. She was a collection of small, delicate truths that he seemed to treasure without needing to say a word. But life, in its gentle insistence on moving forward, had its own plans. Distance grew like a quiet shadow. A new job, a family move, the everyday pull of obligations, they all subtly, inexorably drew them apart. There was no dramatic ending, no sudden heartbreak, just the quiet fading of a connection that had once felt so intimate. And yet, even separated by time and circumstance, the memory of Michael remained, a warm echo in the corridors of her heart. Now sitting across from Ethan, Claire realized how these memories shaped her perception of connection. There was something universal in the small gestures of kindness. The shared silences, the fleeting glances that spoke more than words ever could. In Michael's absence, she had carried the tenderness of that first admiration, the quiet joy of being truly seen, and the soft ache of longing for a closeness that life hadn't allowed to flourish. Ethan, noticing her faraway gaze, tilted his head curiously. "Are you thinking about someone?" he asked softly. Claire smiled, the warmth of the memory and the present mingling in her chest. "Just someone from a long time ago," she replied. "It's strange how people leave marks on your heart, even when they're far away now." Ethan nodded, sipping his cocoa slowly. There was a thoughtful pause, a quiet moment of reflection. Claire saw in him the same kind of gentle awareness she had once seen in Michael Land's openness, a quiet curiosity about the world and the people in it, and a longing to be understood. She told herself not to dwell too long in the past, yet there was a comfort in revisiting it. Life had its way of scattering people like leaves in the wind, but sometimes those leaves return to familiar paths, reminding you of the warmth that had once existed, even if circumstances had kept her apart from Michael. Those memories were not painful, they were soft, like the fading glow of twilight, beautiful in their impermanence. Claire remembered a rainy afternoon, years ago, when she and Michael had wandered through a nearly empty bookstore. The smell of old paper and polished wood had filled the air. They hadn't spoken much, but the quiet had been easy, companionable, like two melodies harmonizing without effort. Michael had handed her a small book, saying, "I thought this might remind you of something you love." The gesture had been simple, yet it had left a lasting impression, a reminder that connection was often found in the smallest, most thoughtful acts. She reflected on how those moments had taught her patience and attentiveness, the importance of noticing the subtle layers in the people around her. In a world that often demanded noise, distraction, and grand gestures, she had learned to treasure the quiet, gentle threads that wove people's hearts together. And now, in her living room with Ethan, those lessons felt alive again, whispered in the hush between sips of cocoa and the rhythmic tapping of rain. Ethan's shy smile pulled her back to the present. There was curiosity in his eyes, a desire to connect, to understand, to be seen. Claire realized that life had a way of creating echoes, some soft, some loud, but all meaningful. The past didn't vanish. It lingered, shaping the way she perceived the quiet beauty of human connection and the tender possibilities of new moments. For the first time that evening, she allowed herself to believe that ordinary nights could carry extraordinary emotion. Just as she had cherished the soft beginnings with Michael, she sensed that tonight, a similar spark might unfold, not a repetition, but a new chapter, quietly waiting to be written. And as the rain softened to a gentle drizzle, the room held a stillness that felt almost sacred, a space where memory and present brushed against each other in a delicate dance. In that calm, Claire understood that every encounter, every gentle smile, and every quiet conversation held the power to echo across time, shaping the heart in ways both subtle and profound. The rain had slowed to a soft drizzle when the clock chimed 8 in Claire's cozy living room. The dim glow of the floor lamp cast warm, golden reflections across the hardwood floors. Claire sat on the couch, her thoughts drifting like the faint mist outside, when Ethan shifted slightly, his gaze catching hers in a quiet, fleeting moment. For a brief second, Claire felt a whisper of familiarity, a gentle echo from the past. It wasn't a memory of Michael exactly, but a reflection of that tender understanding she had once known. She realized that the simplest encounters had a way of reconnecting us with forgotten pieces of our hearts. And now, here in her living room, with Ethan sitting quietly across from her, those soft emotions stirred again. Ethan broke the silence first, his voice gentle, almost hesitant. "You make this place feel really calm," he said, looking around as though noticing for the first time how welcoming the room truly was. Claire smiled, touched by the sincerity in his words. "I try," she replied softly. "I like my home to feel like a place where people can just be themselves." The words hung in the air, simple but resonant, and in that space between them, something subtle and profound began to unfold. It was the quiet intimacy of shared presence, moments that didn't need explanation, words that didn't require embellishment, the kind of connection that forms naturally, like the gentle threading of sunlight through morning curtains. Claire's mind wandered, tracing the lines between past and present. She remembered the soft beginnings with Michael, the way he had made her feel seen without needing grand gestures. Now, looking at Ethan, she sensed a similar openness, a readiness to connect on a deeper, more human level. It wasn't about nostalgia or replacement, it was about recognizing that the heart remembered the warmth of care, of patience, and of understanding. Ethan shifted again, curling his legs under him on the couch. "Do you ever think about people from your past?" he asked quietly, almost as if testing the waters. Claire met his eyes, the soft reflection of the lamp dancing in her gaze. "All the time," she admitted, her voice calm and unhurried. "Some memories linger, not because we want them to, but because they taught us something about ourselves. They remind us how to feel, how to care, and how to notice the little things that matter." Ethan nodded slowly, taking in her words. There was a thoughtful pause as he sipped his cocoa, eyes momentarily distant. And Claire understood that in his quiet way, he too had experienced fleeting connections that shaped his perspective. Life had a way of scattering moments across time, leaving small seeds of understanding that grew only when the right conditions appeared. "You're really good at noticing things," Ethan said finally, his voice soft yet certain. "Most people, don't they just pass by?" Claire felt a quiet smile tug at her lips. "Sometimes," she said, "all it takes is paying attention. Listening, really listening, is rarer than we think." The conversation lingered in the room, unhurried and gentle. There was no need for dramatic confessions or heavy explanations. The subtle energy between them was grounded in honesty, patience, and the natural ebb of human connection. Claire realized that while the past had shaped her heart, it was these present moments that truly allowed it to breathe again. As the night deepened, the room felt suspended in a delicate balance, soft shadows flickering across walls, the gentle rhythm of the rain outside, and the quiet warmth between two people simply sharing a space. Claire noticed the small things, the way Ethan's eyes lit up when he recalled a favorite memory from school, the way his laughter softened the edges of the room, the calm attentiveness he brought into each exchange. In turn, Ethan seemed to sense her subtle reflections. He leaned forward slightly, not invasive, just present, as if he could feel the tender emotion weaving between them. And in that silence, Claire realized something profound. Sometimes, human connection doesn't announce itself with grand gestures. It arrives softly through shared moments, mutual understanding, and the quiet acknowledgement of each other's presence. "Thank you for letting me stay tonight," Ethan said eventually, his tone sincere, almost shy. I didn't realize it would feel so nice." Claire's heart warmed at his words. "I'm glad," she said simply. "Sometimes the smallest nights leave the biggest marks." For a long moment, they sat in companionable quiet, the kind of silence that spoke more than words ever could. Memories from the past and feelings of the present mingled gently in Claire's mind, reminding her that life had a quiet way of bringing people together when the timing was just right. The warmth of understanding, trust, and patience had a power all its own, soft, enduring, and profoundly human. And as the night continued, Claire felt the subtle, quiet shift of her heart, the realization that even ordinary evenings could carry extraordinary meaning. It wasn't about romance, attraction, or drama. It was about connection, empathy, and the gentle rekindling of emotions that life had tucked away in the corners of memory, waiting for the right moment to return. In that small living room, with rain tapping softly against the windows and a warm cup of cocoa in hand, Claire understood that some encounters, though seemingly ordinary, could quietly heal, restore, and remind us of the tender power of human closeness. Morning light filtered softly through the sheer curtains, spilling pale gold across the living room. The gentle warmth of the sun contrasted with the quiet chill lingering from last night's rain. Claire Reynolds stood at the kitchen counter, preparing breakfast when Ethan stirred from the couch, stretching slightly and blinking sleepily at the soft glow. The night had passed in a quiet rhythm of cocoa, shared stories, and gentle conversation. Neither had expected the depth of connection that had grown between them. Yet there it was, a soft, unspoken understanding that bridged the space between past and present, between hearts that had learned to feel carefully and intentionally. Ethan's voice broke the silence, tentative yet earnest. "Claire, I want to thank you, not just for letting me stay, but for listening. For really seeing me." Claire turned to him, her heart warmed by the sincerity in his tone. "You don't have to thank me, Ethan. I'm glad you came. I've enjoyed spending this time with you too." Her voice held a quiet reflection, a mixture of gratitude and soft admiration for the young person before her. There was a pause, a stillness in the room that carried more weight than words could convey. It was in that silence that Claire realized how deeply moments like these mattered, the gentle way human connection could bring clarity and comfort. Two hearts that had learned patience, hope, and quiet resilience. Ethan looked down at his cocoa, then back up at her, eyes steady and sincere. "Sometimes," he said slowly, "we think small moments don't matter. But tonight, I feel like I've learned a lot about myself, about being brave in small ways." Claire smiled, a soft, reflective smile that spoke of her own journey. That's exactly it, she replied. Life often teaches us lessons quietly, without drama or grand gestures. Sometimes the most meaningful things happen when we simply share time, attention, and understanding with one another. As the morning light grew warmer, Claire thought of the past, the quiet connections she had experienced with Michael, the moments that had shaped her heart. She realized that life didn't always offer second chances in the ways she had imagined. Yet, in this ordinary, gentle morning, she saw the beauty of new understanding forming, quietly and respectfully in the presence of someone open, kind, and thoughtful. Ethan reached for his backpack, signaling that his visit was nearing its end. Claire helped him gather his things, her hands lingering briefly on the straps in a soft, maternal gesture of care. "Are you ready to head back?" she asked. He nodded, eyes lingering on hers with a mixture of gratitude and contemplation. "Yes, and I'll remember tonight. Not just the stories or the cocoa, but how it felt to be heard and to feel understood." Claire felt a gentle swell in her chest. She realized that connection, patience, and empathy could leave lasting impressions, far beyond what either person might immediately notice. "I'm glad, Ethan," she said softly. "That's what matters most." Before he left, Ethan paused at the doorway. "I hope we can do this again sometime," he said. Claire's smile deepened, her heart quietly buoyed by the simple hope in his voice. "Of course," she replied. "There's always time for small moments like these." And just like that, the morning carried with it a sense of calm closure, tender acknowledgement of what had passed, what was present, and what could gently unfold in the future. There was no dramatic declaration, no sweeping change. Instead, there was quiet growth, understanding, and the recognition of what it means to truly feel deeply, respectfully, and with care. After Ethan left, Claire returned to the living room, sitting by the window as sunlight danced across the wooden floors. She reflected on the night, the conversations, the laughter, the shared silences, and realized that life often gave us exactly what we needed in the smallest, most unexpected ways. Memories from the past, like soft echoes, had reminded her of the beauty of being noticed, of listening, and of valuing the quiet moments that define human connection. A sense of peace settled over her. It was not a peace born of endings, but of understanding, the gentle awareness that hearts could grow, heal, and open again, even in ordinary circumstances. And perhaps, Claire thought, that was the most profound kind of love. Not always grand or overt, but quiet, enduring, an infinitely meaningful. As she watched the morning light stretch across her home, Claire felt a gentle hope for the days ahead. Life, with its subtle twists and soft lessons, had reminded her that true connection was possible at any time, in any moment, and that even the simplest encounters could leave a lasting mark on the heart. And with that thought, she leaned back, taking a slow breath of the warm morning air. There was gratitude, reflection, and the quiet certainty that her heart, like Ethan's, was richer for the experience, open to what life had yet to offer, and ready for the gentle moments that made every day worth cherishing.